Today we're going to answer the age-old question of, is Lake Michigan clean? Because I have so many people commenting on all of my videos saying that Lake Michigan is dirty, Lake Michigan is gross, you're going to get sick when you swim in that lake. And I just want to clarify some things today and let you know how I feel about the cleanliness of Lake Michigan. Don't anger the mermaid. But you guys do have some points here. So, Lake Michigan, it's a gorgeous place. It isn't really all that clean. This is just the gross stuff. Obviously there's some great things about Lake Michigan, and I don't ever want you to feel discouraged from swimming in the lake because it is a great place, it's a lot of fun, and there are ways to stay safe. So I'll get to that after I tell you what's really in Lake Michigan. Let's get started. Lake Michigan. It is a beautiful mixture of H2O, also known as water. And inside of this H2O, you can find oil and gas from boats and roads. You can also find fertilizer, chemical, and pesticide runoffs from the fields and the beautiful green grass and the farms. In Lake Michigan, and other lakes of course too, you will find sometimes, not always, a layer of gunk at the bottom of a lake. And this layer of gunk is dead matter. It's a mixture of dead matter, decaying plants, sand, and other nasty things like fish poop. And it's down there and it's kind of gross and it'll kind of puff up in a cloud of nastiness. There's a lot of it in the Elk Rapids River. It's really gross. You can watch a video of me swimming in it down below in the description box. But that's also in Lake Michigan. Death and decay. It's a wonderful thing. And if death and decay isn't enough, there is also a lot of bacteria in Lake Michigan. But before you judge Lake Michigan too much, you should know that according to the National Institute of Health, that humans carry up to 2 to 6 pounds of bacteria in their body, which is, I believe, a ratio of 10 other foreign bodies to 1 human cell if you break it down. So you're full of bacteria too, just saying. But Lake Michigan does have some nasty bacteria such as E. coli and also cyanobacteria and whatever that stuff is that just, you know, you see floating around and you don't really know what it's called, but it's not quite algae and it's not quite seaweed and it's just kind of gross. In addition to that, there are parasites floating around in Lake Michigan and of course other lakes, such as the wonderful parasite that flows out of the bottoms of ducks and other duck-like creatures that can attach to your skin and cause swimmers itch. But don't worry, they do fall off and die, but their bites do make you itch and it's kind of nasty. Depending on where you're at too, there can be leeches, although I've never encountered a leech in Lake Michigan, but I have heard that they do exist. There are lamprey too in certain areas, but I've never been bothered by them either. But there are some parasites and they're kind of gross and they are in the lake, so that's something that's kind of gross for all of you who say that Lake Michigan is a nasty, dirty place. Now, parasites aren't the worst of it. There is also human fecal matter, along with the feces of other creatures too, including fish and ducks and anything else that poos in the lake. Yes, you're swimming in poo sometimes, whether you know it or not. And oftentimes, I'm not saying that humans go and take a dump in the lake, but there are some marinas and boat harbors that don't always have their pump out systems up to date. And they can leak into the water. I know of a place that has had it happen a number of times, and it's really important, guys, to make sure that your equipment is up to date because you're polluting our waters, and that's disgusting. Nobody wants to swim in poop. Otherwise, we go to sewage treatment plants and swim. And last, there is also trash and waste to be found in the lakes, such as pop cans, flippers, old makeup containers, beer cans, all sorts of things. We found a ton of stuff in Lake Michigan, and it's not healthy for the fish, and it's not necessarily bad for your health, but it's gross. Trash is not good for our lakes, so you should probably keep it in the trash can or start reducing your waste. So that's what's in Lake Michigan. It is kind of a dirty place when you think about it, despite the shimmering crystal clear blue water that sparkles in the sunlight and laps gently onto the beach. It can be a little bit disgusting when you think about what's really hiding in there. But that doesn't mean you have to stop swimming in Lake Michigan. Plenty of people do it. There are just some precautions you may want to take to help keep yourself safe and make sure that you don't get sick or itchy or anything like that when you swim in the lake. So fear not. It's not that bad of a place. It's not Lake Erie, and it's definitely not Flint water. We're going to first start with common sense. If you are swimming in Lake Michigan or any body of water, no matter how clean and clear it looks, as you obviously found out, there's some stuff in there that's not so great, and you probably don't want to consume. So don't drink the water. It's not that clean, and there are some nasty things you can get if you do drink the water. Which, by the way, zebra mussels do spawn, and they create like these little tiny microscopic things that float in the water. Those are their babies. You can't see them, but if you drink the water, you're probably drinking them. Sure, you don't want to drink zebra mussel juice. This next thing is something I'm completely guilty of not doing, but if you are a professional mermaid, sometimes you do some stupid things and then you tell other people not to do them because it's your job to kind of do them and look real and whatever. But that is to wear goggles. I don't wear goggles. My vision is pretty much screwed anyways, so I'm not too concerned with my eyes. I do make sure to take good care of them after each swim, but opening your eyes in the water can cause some infections, and it can cause bacteria and stuff to get in your eyes, and you really are better off just to wear goggles. And also, it's a good idea to wear goggles with a nose piece so that nothing gets in your nose, because you can get sinus infections if you get water up your nose. That's why I'm sick like 24/7, because I'm always snorting water up my nose. I will link some goggles below for you to click on and buy if you need a good pair of goggles. These are the ones that my brother uses, and they're pretty awesome, and they look pretty sweet too, so I'll link them below. If you are like me though, and you do like to open your eyes in the water, there are some things you can do to help bring down the risk of getting an infection or something like a foreign object such as sand inside of your eye, which would scrape up your eye and cause all sorts of problems. What you can do is after each swim, you get some saline and you rinse your eyes out really good. If you have astigmatism and your eyes are really cone shaped, go in on the bottom and then go in on the top of your eyelid. Kind of have to like tilt your head, but if I do that, my crown will fall. So if you want a tutorial on that, let me know and I can give you a quick tutorial showing you how to rinse your eyes. If you'd like more eye care tips, you can click on the video in the description box. It will tell you about how I keep my eyes from getting really sore when I open them in the water. Another way to keep from getting sick from all the gross stuff in the water is to pay attention to the warnings in your local area. Sometimes there will be warnings of spiked E. coli levels. You do not want to swim when there are E. coli levels that are really high. It can make you really sick. Also pay close attention to what people are saying about swimmer's itch. They don't always post warnings about swimmer's itch in certain areas, but usually the locals will be gossiping about which areas have swimmer's itch at what time. A good rule of thumb is to look at the beach and see if there's a lot of goose poop. If there's a lot of goose poop or duck poop, you probably shouldn't swim there because that's where the parasite that causes swimmer's itch usually comes from. So that's just kind of a good rule of thumb. Avoid areas that look stagnant too, because those can be kind of gross. Like any coves that have lily pads, usually not a place you want to swim because lily pads tend to grow in those more stagnant, gross, cruddy areas. Something you may be tempted to do after swimming in a lake that looks so clean and clear as Lake Michigan is to just let yourself air dry and carry on with your day. But it's very important that you shower off after swimming in the lake, because there are certain things, especially like algae or different bacteria or seaweed or whatever, that can irritate your skin. Or if you encounter the parasites that cause swimmer's itch, you're going to want to wash that kind of stuff off. And like if you're swimming in oil or feces, I'm sure you want that off of your skin. So make sure you shower really good after a swim. The lake looks clean, but it's not as clean as it appears to be. Those are a couple of ideas on how to prevent getting sick when swimming in Lake Michigan. I've never had a problem swimming in the lake, and I don't want you to be afraid about swimming in it, but it is good to be aware of what's really in there and know that it's not as clean as it looks, and it still is a wild area. It's not filtered water. So do take some precautions to ensure that you don't get sick, because it can happen. Doesn't happen often, but it can happen. Now, lastly, let's talk about some ways you can help prevent Lake Michigan from turning into something that looks a little bit like Lake Erie. If you're like me and you love Lake Michigan and our Great Lakes very dearly, then I'm sure you want them to stay as beautiful as ever. So there are some things you can do to help prevent Lake Michigan from becoming nasty and disgusting and polluted and just unappealing. We want it to stay beautiful and crystal clear and just pleasant to swim in and safe to be around. So some things you can do. First, if you live in an area near a marina or a boat harbor, maybe talk with somebody in the Chamber of Commerce or whoever runs the marina to check in with their pump out system to make sure that everything's up to date. This obviously isn't something that's like up to you to control because chances are you don't own a marina or a harbor, but if you do notice that there's some nasty smells or frequent E. coli outbursts, it might be good to check in and see if like everything's up to date. Maybe see if you can get an inspector out there to inspect the marina. So maybe tip somebody off at the EPA or whatever it would be that would be involved with that. But see if you can ensure that your area is up to code and not leaking sewage or oil for that matter into the lake. Another thing you can do, obviously, if you are a boat owner, would be to make sure your gas cap is on your boat, and you can also carry some rags to soak up any gas or oil that may leak out. I will link those in the description below. They are great to have in your boat at all times and also in your car. Make sure you have a coffee can or something to contain them in that won't make them explode. You don't want to just like let oil and gas just seep out into the lake because mermaids and fish and everyone in there just don't really appreciate that. An obvious thing that you can do to help keep our lakes safe and beaches in our environment and our planet in general is to just pick up after yourself and others too. I know there are some people who are pigs and they will never pick up after themselves. They think they are entitled and can just leave their trash everywhere because like they are gods or goddesses or whatever it is nowadays. If you see trash, pick it up. If it's like a condom or something, you probably shouldn't pick that up. But you know, there are certain things, kits you can carry in your car. You put together a kit for picking up trash, so if you do go somewhere that's extra messy, you can safely pick things up, store it in your car. I'll try to link some materials in the description for you below if you want to carry something like that in your car, so when you make visits to the beach, you can help keep it clean and keep yourself safe too. And again, pick up after yourself. And if you can, try to reduce your waste. Make it a personal goal and a challenge maybe to cut the amount of trash in your trash can in half. I challenge you to try that. The last thing that I have for you right now to help eliminate the pollution of our lakes is to minimize or eliminate your use of fertilizers and harsh chemicals and pesticides whenever you can. Your lawn doesn't need to be perfectly green because quite frankly, the more green your grass is, probably the less blue our lake's going to be. So I don't know which one's more important to you, but quite frankly, our lake is pretty special and I would love to see it stay as beautiful and wonderful as it is. So I hope that you and your friends and whoever else that you know, maybe farmers, factory owners, business owners, whatever, if you know somebody who does use a lot of harsh chemicals, maybe try to help them find another way, a more environmentally safe way to go about keeping up their lawn or whatever it is they're spraying, their cherry trees, their apple trees, their orchards, whatever. The more fertilizers, chemicals, and pesticides that we use, the more fertilizers, chemicals, and pesticides we have in our lake. And if you get that in your mouth, I don't think you want to be swallowing harsh chemicals or pesticides or anything like that. Try not to use those whenever you can and try to help promote more natural ways with your friends and those that you know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a really long one and I hope you got something out of it. I know some of you are new here, so if you want to check out the other videos on my channel, feel free to check them out below. I'm losing my voice. I'm sick. I apologize for my weirdness. I hope you guys have a very, very wonderful day, and I hope you'll join me in the efforts of trying to keep our lake safe and clean. Obviously, Lake Michigan is not the most clean thing in the world. Again, you shouldn't drink it. It's not that clean, but it is a lot better than certain areas in this world, and we really need to keep it as clean and pristine as possible. So if you want to share this video with anybody who you think could benefit from watching it, feel free to share away. And remember, don't be scared by the stuff in Lake Michigan. It's not all that bad. Just be safe, be smart, and do your best to help keep our lake from becoming dirtier and nastier. Have a very magical day. I will see you next Friday.